What is good, guys? Welcome back. Me and Pablo having a little rave in the background while we wait, but we have got another ES Hub EU game for you this evening, and Pablo, it is going to be a bit of a banger here with the quality on display that we're not necessarily used to all the time, but I'm sure we're going to love every single second of it regardless, aren't we?
Absolutely, mate. I think we just seem to live in the upper tier of Spanish Call of Duty, don't we, mate?
Yeah.
When we do get these games, it's always the Spanish, and I am absolutely looking forward to this. This is why we get into the casting. We love all levels of it, but every now and then you just know you're going to get a belter of a game, and you know if Vega and the boys thought they were under pressure against JT and JMW, well, welcome to the next level.
Yeah, so guys, as you can see, Vitalize Esports, they are back once again on the ES Hub, and this time they are up against the good. And this roster, Pablo, it needs no introducing, really, does it, to the majority of the scene who have at least been around for maybe 2 years. They will know everything about this roster, won't they?
Yeah, pretty much. Like this is maybe with the exception of not having Sucre in there, this is a Spanish team of legends. Journey Metals, Lucky. Where'd you start? I mean, they've played and they've flirted and they've kind of embedded themselves in different teams throughout time. We know them from Team Heretics, who went on a huge run, 5-0 in the CWL back in the day, when Suki did join them. But even since then, Metals is 6 months at Toronto Ultra. Journey joined FaZe for a little bit. Lucky's just been a stalwart of the Spanish scene. So this is as good as it gets. These are pros in all but name, really. So this is going to be a hell of a night and a really good test for the boys from the UK.
Yeah, and I suppose one of the controversial topics that everyone has been talking about is kind of the addition of franchise into Call of Duty. It's kind of meant that there's been a quality shift in terms of players that come down into challengers, and obviously with champs, and that is that everything kind of rests on these kind of amateur leagues. So it's good to see the likes of ES Hub coming through, and with these big prize pools that entice this kind of quality of player over to play players that we saw in Cold War quite a lot of. And then you get this matchup where it's like, okay, we're used to seeing one particular team, and now they're coming up against basically pro players, which is a matchup that you wouldn't really be accustomed to seeing from previous years.
No, not at all. That's it. I mean, obviously with the formats of the kind of highest level being a lot more open, and it was a more exciting time. Maybe we got to see kind of all these crazy games against the the very top players would be playing kind of open bracket qualifiers, but the AM scene just seems to have really taken advantage of this gap that's been left by franchising, and it's this kind of like tournament that's perfect. And you know what, more than anything else, mate, we've kind of we've followed our group of players through for the last 6 or 7 months, and it's just great to see Vega, Prof, Ghost and Zyro obviously coming up against these kinds of players in these kind of tournaments. This is exactly what we wanted to see and what we've talked about between ourselves.
Yeah, because we haven't really seen much of it. Obviously, when we had the challenges at the end of last year, a lot of the players, the teams that they were used to playing in, got split up because of pro points in order to actually be like a viable team to enter.
Yeah.
So now we've got a situation potentially this year where we're going to see their actual roster come up against these quality of players. And for us, as you mentioned, watching them through the previous Call of Duty, it's something that I think is going to be really good to see. I think it might be a very rude awakening for some of the teams that we're used to casting, because the quality of players on the side of the good tonight, the bar is up there compared to what these guys will be usually playing against. So it'll be an interesting matchup nonetheless. I think in terms of if you're planting your flag on one team, you're going to go with the good on this one. But in terms of looking forward to the game, I can't wait to see how they actually do vitalize here, to be honest.
Yeah, and I think we've been in a weird position where we've been able to cast some of the top teams, and especially in the AM scene from here in North America, and you do see there is a difference in how quickly they execute strategies. They get to the positions a lot quicker. They just do everything a little bit pacier. So it'll be interesting to see how the likes of Vega and obviously the SMGs basically just going to cope in this kind of pace of game, and maintain consistency right the way throughout the map, because that's what caught out teams that they were playing against. They just couldn't hang with Vega's pace right the way throughout the map. But this time it's definitely, the shoe is definitely on the other foot tonight. So I'm super excited for this. This is imagine these guys come away with the win. If Vitalize get this, their Twitter is over for the night, because it's just going to blow up. It's going to be, I mean, these are 3 legends right here.
Yeah, and I've just actually had a message from one of the guys, Pablo. You're not going to want to hear this one. Apparently, the game is scheduled for 8 p.m. So that's news to us, which is obviously not what we're going to want to see. I have double checked, so I will just triple check as well. I'll ask it.
1v1 me, Major.
Yeah, yeah. I don't think I'll put the people through that one.
No, God, no, don't do it.
But yeah, I mean, we've got everything in place. We know the maps, so we can obviously talk about them a little while, just while we get the confirmation on that start time. And they've got 3 half points, as per usual. Maps 1, 3, and 4, and we've got ourselves Bocage, that's back in. Obviously, yesterday we didn't really see a huge amount of it yesterday when we were casting, but we've got Bocage hard point, Berlin Search. We've got Desert Siege for map 3 as well, so we actually haven't seen that one yet. And Berlin Hardpoint, Tuscan. I think in terms of Vitalize, we know the maps they're good at. But I think, is it a safe assumption to assume that the good will probably be very good at most of them, if not all of them?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I can only assume that these guys are playing Call of Duty full time, and this is why they enter these tournaments, because they need the kind of income that's generated from consistently playing tournaments and chals and stuff. So it might not be the case. They might have them to be doing different things, but I'm just going to assume that they're full time Call of Duty players, and that might well get reflected in the outcome, or in particular in how they approach the game.
Yeah, and a lot of people have spoken about with this Call of Duty. I think I share part of the opinion as well. With the time to kill being so quick, the skill ceiling definitely seems to have come down a little bit, where we've seen teams last year that might have got blown out of the water, and then this year they're making close maps of some of these games. So I wouldn't put it past Vitalize to at least make a series of this, to be honest. But then again, when you're watching these quality of players up against guys that you're used to watching, sometimes it can be a bit of a rude awakening, can't it? When you finally go into the deep end and you do play them, that's when you realise, oh, hang on a minute, maybe the skill ceiling is a lot higher than we first thought.
Yeah, and another thing I would say is that one thing we've kind of like come across a lot is that a lot of these kind of like top end Spanish players are willing to just play in every tournament going. Like we've seen this a few times, and that is going to make it so that these guys encounter these kind of teams a lot more. But you know, I wonder how much like latency or how much the kind of like connection is going to play a part as well, because we don't often see that, like Journey Metals and Lucky, we don't often see that level of UK player playing in these tournaments. So I'm hoping maybe with the problems that have been kind of like faced in Vanguard, that it might draw out a few of the top UK players to start to bring their teams in. At time to kill wise, man, it's definitely if you've got good accuracy and good reactions, you're going to do really well. Loads of players have got great reactions. I think last year they suffered because obviously the time to kill was a bit longer. So, you know, if you had windy shots, you were going to get dropped. So the more accurate players over time and the more strategic teams did well. But yeah, we are seeing, again, we expected it. We're seeing a little bit of a, few players go quiet and maybe make that transition to Halo. Yeah, the ones that are staying are definitely enjoying themselves. And out of all 8 of these players, I think this is going to be a hell of a game regardless. I think there's enough in Vitalize to really, put something on the throat of the good.
Yeah, it's definitely an opportunity, even with regards to just learning the game's fundamentals. These pro players, the way they approach the game, probably a lot of teams won't be used to. They might run strategies and certain things, especially, I mean, we're only limited to the 2 game modes at the moment, but there might be elements of their game that they incorporate that Vitalize wouldn't even think twice about with regards to strategy. So it's a good opportunity as well for the teams, even if they get blown out of the water, to maybe pick up at least a few things going forwards that they can then take to other teams just from matching up against like this quality of player.
Yeah, I think if it does go the way we expect it to go, which would be a shame, I think one thing Vitalize could do is just go back to the VOD and just have a look how these guys get set up, particularly in S&D on defense, on how they approach attacking the bomb site and controlling the bomb site. Another things to look at that a lot of teams, I don't think Vega and Zyro and the like will probably miss this, but just how their ARs set up to support their SMGs when they go into certain situations, especially from like entering buildings and things like that. They just, they're not looking to have all their players drop. They want to get control of a building as quickly as possible, particularly if it's a kill. So just looking at how they approach the support mechanisms of their entry players and look to like obviously hold hills. I think I know a lot of these players like J-Prof and Ghost will have done some of the basics, but what you're going to get from the good is they're not going to make mistakes. And if they do, the question is, can Vitalize punish them for it?
Yeah, and it looks as though 8 p.m. is going to be our game, Pablo. I mean, regardless, we can still take a look at the bracket currently as it stands. Oh, sorry, not the bracket, the group stage. I'm so used to doing knockout tournaments, but this is currently how it looks for the teams at the moment in this group. Vitalize, they haven't lost yet. The Good only played one game. Vitalize have only played the two. But you would expect with the way it's kind of set out. I mean, we haven't seen a lot of the other teams, but you'd expect obviously the Good to probably top this, to be honest. I'm not quite sure about some of the other teams and the rosters on them, but you would expect them to top it, and then it will probably be a battle for the spots just underneath them, you would assume.
Yeah, I think obviously not knowing the other rosters, it's difficult to make any kind of assumption, but 100% believe that the Good are probably going to be one of the favourites. There is another roster in the league, not sure if it's in this division, that's got Whalers and co. So again, former Team Heretics players, and this is I think Whalers is Italian as far as I remember. So, but I do think he jumped on the Spanish team. So yeah, it's an interesting one. I expect this to be a difficult game for Vitalize, and I'm glad they're kind of getting this kind of experience in many ways, because this is why you play Call of Duty, to play the best in the world. And you know, these are storied players, you know, they can pull out games they've played against the likes of Optic Game, and you know, they've played for in fact, I think Metals played for Toronto when they beat FaZe. So there's stories right there for these three players, and you know, Vega and Co are about to come up against, you know, truly talented players.
Yeah, so just waiting on that reply. So, I mean, in terms of pacing, Pablo, we saw it when we casted what was it, Val last season with Eric Boomslot. So we kind of know the pacing that some of these players bring to the game. The game is fast enough as it is with the teams that we've casted. So would you expect to see again that speed of engagement and trades be brought up even further with these pro teams like we saw in Cold War, or do you think it will be kind of a similar level because it can't seem to get any faster, if that makes sense?
I don't know, you know, when we cast that Val game, I think I said, because I'd managed to get a cast on MV3 and X's Foxes before you jumped in onto that one, and I said to you, like, this is about 10% faster than anything I've cast before, or even seen. And I've been watching the likes of CDs and Aromas and Looties doing VODs and that, and I still thought they were 10% faster. And then you come when we did NA CDL, and was it built by gamers, and I think there was another team, and it was like Parasite's team and Kismet's team. I think they were playing each other, and the pace of that was unreal. But it was more like headless chickens than it was. The EU seemed a lot more strategic. It just seemed a lot more organized. What I would suggest if the guys from Vitalize are just watching this or listening at all is, these guys do play, I'd say, 10% faster than the top ACCL teams and some of the lower challenger sides. They're just so quick. Eric Boom, though, might have been an outlier. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah,
Eric Boom's a lord unto himself in that sense. We've seen it time and time again where he would just, you know, go on a rampage of 7 kills in the blink of an eye, and then he would die 9 times in the next 10 seconds. A wild player, but yeah, it's going to be really interesting to see how the Spanish lads approach this game.
Yeah. So guys, we have just got the confirmation that the game isn't due actually to start until 8 p.m. So what we'll do is we'll throw it to a break until then. Obviously, me and Pablo can talk for England, but you guys probably aren't going to be interested in that. So what we'll do is we'll throw it back up again. The stream will still be live. It'll just be on a Be Right Back screen for the time being, and then what we'll do is we'll regroup, get our notes back together again, and kick off just a few minutes before that 8 p.m. start time. So make sure you stay tuned with that, guys. Obviously, we'll tweet it out as well just as soon as we're about to go back on. But yeah, the stream will still be live. But if you guys need to grab some food, last-minute food is always essential before some of these series, and grab a drink as well in the time being. But we will be back very shortly, just before 8 o'clock. For this matchup, and it's definitely one that you are not going to want to miss. So we'll catch you guys 100%. In just a short second.
times when I couldn't see. There were times when I thought this was all I had. But I guess I ain't the same man, 'cause now I'm living in a very different world with you. Into my senses, the deeper I go, I fall, I fall. The closer I get, the one thing I know is I fall, I fall. Too many dark spaces, too many dark places along this road. But soon you'll start seeing, start believing. I know you will find the light if you open up your eyes. We'll be free tonight. Don't let anybody lie and tell you otherwise, 'cause we own the night. Everything we need's inside. Let your flames burn on and your sparks ignite, and you will come alive.
You are listening to the sound of JD Lace.
I see you looking, why don't you speak? If you wanna take a ride with me. Then run away if you can't stand the heat, or close your eyes and follow me. I see you looking, why don't you speak? If you wanna take a ride with me. Then run away if you can't stand the heat, or close your eyes and follow me. Close your eyes and follow me.
Watch out, we have a killer sound boy now. Go DJ, go, go. There's something in us that keeps us going on throughout the darkness and into the unknown. There's something out there that tries to take
Let me dream of the ocean, love's deep devotion, and the waves taking over, our stars in motion. I'll drown in your heart when the sun goes down. Leave me in the sand, it's a midnight falling. Let me dream of the ocean, love's deep devotion, and the waves taking over, our stars in motion. I'll drown in your heart when the sun goes down. Leave me in the sand, it's a midnight falling.
We are lost on the sidewalk. Traffic lights are painting the street.
His street side. Where to start? I mean, Vega and Zyro and the boys have got the first real, the second real challenge, but this is definitely a step above. I don't know if you guys know the roster, but it's Journey, Metals, Lucky, and Real Nose. Not a great deal known about the fourth member of the team so far. He's got a popular following on Twitter, 17 years old, but we know everything there is to know about Lucky, Journey, and Metals. They've all played for some of the best teams in the world, including FaZe and Toronto Ultra most recently. But yeah, this is definitely going to be a page in quality above what Vega and Zyro have played before.
Yeah, I mean, we know how talented the Vitalized roster is. We casted them yesterday against Mistaken Identity, and they came just short of that one. But to be fair, the Mistaken Identity lads, I mean, JMW last year, he was pushing into challengers, wasn't he, last year towards the end of the season? So they've got a good team. But you mentioned the bar that potentially they might be coming into this one. is going to be a lot higher. But we mentioned it before as well in terms of even just as a learning experience. We don't want to count them out just yet. That's not what we're doing. But in terms of expectation, on paper, you'd expect the good to be very solid here. You'd expect potentially a 3-0 or a 3-1. But regardless of what the result is, Vitalize, they'll definitely be able to take something out of the game after just having this kind of experience and playing this kind of caliber of player.
Absolutely, and I think that their kind of takeaway from this, I mean, we're not saying it's going to be a 3-0 by any means, but they can definitely go back over the VOD and look at how these guys get set up. Now, one thing I would suggest is that this isn't like a pick-up side of high-quality players. These are three lads that have played together like many times before. They've been in, you know, three of them were in Team Heretics, and then they've kind of been in and about the top end of the Spanish scene through MV3 and QLash for a long time. So they've, you know, they're winners as well. They regularly, this is how they make their income. So this is definitely a moment for the Vega and the boys to just really take stock, and this is where they want to be. They want to be playing in and around this kind of level. And with regards to JMW, you've got to realistically consider that he would be at this caliber of player. They were seconds away from making that breakthrough. It was just a moment there for Snake and Co that really pushed them over the edge. So
Yeah.
you know, it's going to be faster and more accurate than than Vega will be used to playing anyone. But you know, we know these guys are quick, and you know, I think one problem though major is that we know that a couple of their players just take time to get into the game. You know, they can be a little slow off the mark, and that's not going to be the case with the good.
Yeah, and we know what this Vitalized roster can bring. I suppose in some ways, every game that the good go into in terms of strategy, they haven't really got much to work off. I know it's still early days in Vanguard, but they might not know particularly how certain players on these rosters that they're not used to playing operate, whether they'll be more slow paced, more fast paced. I mean, one of the things that we'll probably be able to see from the good is that the pace from them will probably match the pace of what we've seen from Vitalize. Incredibly fast gameplay, and almost meet head to head. Are you potentially a bit worried though if Vitalize try and meet them with just head on aggression, that because of the quality of play they're up against, it might potentially come back to bite them?
Yeah, that's the key right there, is that, you know, when we say these guys are 10% faster, they're getting to their strategies, they're getting to their positions quicker, they execute the strategies, their communications will be on point, they'll have practiced them. You know, they've got years and years of experience of not just playing at the highest level, but practicing for the highest level. So the things that a lot of players that make the likes of Vegan that might not be used to doing, they're definitely going to have done. They'll have a ready schedule. They mix in and around players that are either about to, you know, potentially going to play in the Pro League or have played in the Pro League, or definitely got the quality. So, you know, they've been mixing around the likes of Eric Boom, Sukri, Vikel, these players that, you know, top end challenges that we've cast ourselves over, you know, winning thousands and thousands of euros in competition. So it's a tricky one for Vega and the boys. I think they've just got to play their game and see how it goes.
Yeah,
that's all we can do.
And kind of going off on that, we know the maps. We've got a Bocage map 1, Berlin Search, Desert Hardpoint, Berlin Hardpoint, and then a Tuscan Search. But the map that I'm interested in is that Bocage, that map 1. I think that will be the benchmark map, because we know Vitalize are very good at it from what we've seen over the games that we've casted of them. We spoke about how quickly they play the likes of Vega and Zyro, very fast SMG players, and for a map that you would argue is probably their most comfortable one, or one of them, this is going to be a good opportunity for them to see kind of what level they're at, because that's their comfortable map, that's what they know, and then they're coming up against a quality team. So if, for example, if they get blown out in map 1, you might be thinking, oh, okay, this might be a bit worrying, because they are very good at that map.
Yeah, and I think you nailed it right there. I think you look at what JMW and Co did yesterday. They were quick to notice that was their most comfortable map, and it was clearly vetoed out the blocks, because Bocage did not appear at all in the 5, and that's really unusual because it's a favoured map at present, along with Tuscan. I think Berlin's shaping up to be that probably like the kind of like, I don't know, most accessible map as well. But yeah, I think you're right, man. I think Bocage is definitely going to be the barometer for Vega, and I think if that 4-piece can do really well on this and get themselves set up, we could be in for an interesting game. I think if they get blown out, I think coming into a Berlin S&D, which is definitely, they're not bad S&D players, but they struggled against JT and not JT JMW, and then followed by what is essentially an unknown quantity in Desert Siege. This could be Bocage is. I think you're right, man. Bocage is going to be key.
Yeah, I'm really excited to see how this one goes. And you mentioned kind of the unknown element on the side of the good. We know about the other three. Real knows we don't openly know much about, but what we saw recently with the likes of Eric Boom, the young kind of European scene can be very explosive with young talented players. So we wouldn't probably be very surprised if this lad comes out and he's a very, very good player, because he's obviously been picked up by very experienced, top quality players. So there's obviously something there that they see in order to pick him up for Vanguard.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think maybe his age is just limiting his history a little bit. Just that we've had a look to see if we can find any information about him. I've hit up a couple of people. This is classic CD. Do you know who Real knows his mate? Yeah.
Doesn't beat around the bush.
He's literally just tagged me. I went any info and he's just tagged me his Twitter account.
He's a busy man, is CD. But saying that, actually, speaking about CD, I don't know if you've seen much of him this Call of Duty, but he looks like a different beast on this Call of Duty. He's very, very good at it. He won the one of the early tournaments. I forget which one it was now. I think it was one of the not 2K, but a similar kind of style tournament. But it goes to show kind of players that have done well previously can come into a game like Vanguard absolutely flying. And something that we always mention as well with players that we've casted before in previous months, coming into this one, you can't hold back on players that potentially might have been okay in the previous COD, because coming into this one you've got a different movement system, a completely different game, and we talk about all the different dynamic elements. It's essentially such a different COD that you can be all right at Cold War, and then you come into Vanguard and you can be absolutely stacked at it and be brilliant.
Yeah, I think those players that were really, really good at Modern Warfare but found the maps a little large have come into this one and are just in their element.
Yeah.
Them MP40s are just frying at the minute. We've seen it time and time again. We've seen some of these players turn on quality players and just take the head clean off. So yeah, I mean, this is a different kettle of fish as Call of Duty games go. It feels like the pace of a jetpack game with the time to kill of Modern Warfare.
Yeah.
And the map sizes are just feel like they're quite small and quite compact with it, and even the larger maps seem to have quite tight geography. So
Yeah.
I know it's so weird, but yet you literally can't breathe on these maps as a player. As I say, we've mentioned it before, Major. As a viewer and as a caster, it's superbly entertaining.
Yeah.
But I definitely don't think it's superbly entertaining as a player.
Yeah, we saw Berlin yesterday. The AR players that we saw between Vitalize and Mistaken definitely had more of an influence in that map, because it is one of the more spaced out ones. But I suppose as an SMG player of Vanguard, you're probably somewhat relieved, because you had to go through the hell that was Checkmate, especially Checkmate Search last year, where it was like, as an SMG player, you felt almost like you were going to get shot from any angle at any time, and there wasn't really much you could do about it. Whereas on these tighter knit maps, it's almost like a shift now, where AR players have only got one, maybe two maps, which you would say AR players are more not more dominant, but they can have more of an influence in the map. Whereas in Vanguard now, that map for ARs has definitely been restricted down to potentially only a couple where they can have a big impact. The MP40 players definitely seem to be living in their own world at the moment, that's for sure.
Yeah, it's an SMG meta, mate. It is without question the SMG kind of experience right now. And our two maps that we're looking at for ARs is basically Berlin and Desert Siege thus far.
Yeah.
And we've yet to see Desert Siege come into the rotation. So finally tonight we will get to see it. So this is a big moment. And if anything, it comes at the right time, I suppose, for the likes of Ghost and JProf, who have notoriously over the last week been slow to kind of build themselves into that kind of frenzy and get those kind of high kill games. So third game, an AR map might just play into their hands, and we didn't expect to get to that game 4 game 5 scenario last night, and we're not expecting it tonight, and it's just bit us on the bum. So it's every opportunity that might actually be the case, but it's just how Bocage, man, you said it before, everything comes down to that Bocage. And are we going to see 3 SMG metas? What are we going to see in this map? Are Vitalize going to try and play the same aggressive way that they've been playing? And let's be honest, is there any chance that Journey and that have looked at what Vitalize have played like previously?
Probably not, no.
Not.
Yeah,
So-
it's one of those, isn't it, where the ability of some of these teams can be obviously so high that they can go into a lot of games and almost wing it. I think Search and Destroy is more of a game mode where these kind of borderline pro players and previous pro players will take a bit more seriously, because teams can pinch Search and Destroy just by doing GB reps and putting time into the game. Whereas Respawn, the quality definitely seems to show a little bit more, I would say, than in Search and Destroy. So you would assume Vitalize are probably looking to at least take one of the Search and Destroyers to give themselves a hope in this series.
Yeah, absolutely. And to be fair, S&D is definitely, I would say, Vitalize's strong kind of. I know they've got these fast SMGs, and I know that the Ghost and that can step up kind of in the latter part of the series, but from the get-go, their S&D is good, and you know that is going to be the opportunity. That is the one kind of game mode that does offer any team that more balanced and fair playing field, where, you know, unless these are superbly strategic and they've put an incredible amount of time into practicing S&D, this could be the opportunity for the Vitalized boys to kind of get the foot in the door. If Bocage lets them down, they have got that S&D there, just potentially to you know, the luck factor more than anything else. Someone pushes too far, or someone flanks and it's being watched. All these little kind of like moments that could change a game that only really happen in S&D. So yeah, Vitalized got to have that in the back of the mind. The other thing is to consider as well is if they do go 2-0 down, is just to reset and just take the last 3 maps as the start of a new game and see if they can 3-0. Do you know what I mean? That's all you can do.
Yeah. And yesterday they actually dropped the Berlin search, because that is map number 2 is Berlin. They dropped that against Mistaken Identity yesterday, and we mentioned the caliber of play that they're coming up against. We know their Bocage search is pretty solid, but again, it's a lot of aggression and it plays into Vitalize's hand. Whereas now they're coming up. It's a completely different kettle of fish with these lads on the good. It's not like I'm worried for them, but I'm really interested to see potentially how their pacing is influenced by the quality of play that they know they're coming up against. It would surprise me a lot if they just go balls to the wall, they play exactly how they normally do, and they're not even remotely hesitant, because I think it's just a natural thing when you come up against players. You're like, oh god, these guys are like their previous pros, they've been around the block a long time, they know what they're doing. We've got to not change our gameplay, but in order to match that particular level, we might have to mix something up. But I'd be very surprised if Vitalize don't at least slow something down in their gameplay, because they know they can't just roll through these lads, that's for sure.
Yeah, well, we've seen it actually in the first game we cast with Vitalize. They were hyper aggressive, and then they started to get picked off by the fast route during the S&D, and that's when we thought we were going to see this kind of like turnaround mid-game, and it didn't come, because Vitalize did change things up. They started to just turtle a little bit more. They started to get a few picks. You didn't see Vega just running, you know, top grannies, top barn. He started to slow things down. So they have got that kind of mid-game transition that they can do, where they can change things up. It's just how effective is it going to be against this caliber of player who might then they might just throw through a few gears, and you know, you might find themselves in 5th gear and they might just run rampant over them. So I mean, you can play a million scenarios over in your head before you go into the game, but the best thing they can do is just try and play their game plan, and then, you know, have a plan B. That's as much as you can ask for at this stage in the season.
Yeah, I'm really excited to see this one, to be fair, because we know how good Vitalize are, and just from where we know their level are compared to other teams that we've casted in the scene that we're used to seeing, obviously in that lower AM level, it will be really good to see if they can potentially pinch a map, because, like, for example, Mistaken Identity beat them yesterday. If Mistaken Identity see that Vitalize managed to pinch a map or two, or maybe push it to a game 5, or I mean, we never know, they might even take the series, who knows, but if they manage to do well against them, the teams that come up against them, like Mistaken Identity, will look at this year and this Call of Duty and potentially go, oh, hang on a minute, we might be able to get something out of this, because the quality of player on the other team, they've given them a good run for their money. So I'm really interested to see how Vitalize do in this one, to be perfectly honest. I really, really don't want them to get battered, to be honest. I'd be surprised if they don't at least put up a good fight. But it's kind of like the battle between head and heart, really, isn't it? My head is saying that the good will just be very, very good, and probably put on a bit of a spanking, really. But my heart is saying Vitalize can they pinch a map? Can they pinch a couple of maps? Because it's not impossible. We've seen it before, but it's optimistic, I suppose you would say.
I think as well, you can get wrapped up, I suppose, in these players' histories as well a little bit. You know, outside of Team Heretics, they've flirted with the Pro League a little bit, and a lot of the time when they have been picked up, they haven't been able to maintain or kind of like stamp down on a place in that. There's an opening there for Vitalize to be able to break in. I think this isn't like, you know, these aren't like the top AMs in the UK that potentially, you know, would be able to walk into a mid-level, you know, pro team potentially. These are players that have struggled to hold down places at the top level, and again, so there is a weird opportunity for Vitalize there to maybe just get into the heads a little bit. They can shoot back, and they've got good strats, and they're really quick. And it's all intents and purposes, you know, that might be enough just to get them in the fight. And if they can just get a little bit of luck on their side, and especially in Bacage, if they can just get that one map down on the board, it could be a different game entirely. I'm with you though, man. I mean, these three guys from Spain are just they're just that one little level above, and it can just be very difficult to break them down.
Yeah, there's a reason these players on the side of the good have been at the level that they've been at. I mentioned before, we saw it in Val with Mavericks when they came up against teams that we were used to casting, and then it was a completely new world for us when we saw Mavericks playing, because the pace that they brought to that Cold War game we didn't even realise was there. It was like completely different gear from the quality of gameplay and teams and trades that we saw throughout large chunks of the year. But I say I wouldn't count Vitalize out, but it's gonna be tough. It's gonna be tough, but I think regardless they'll enjoy the experience either way.
Yeah, absolutely. But yeah, I think one thing to consider as well is that we were blown away by MV3, who then went into like LCQs and into challenges and kind of like we're kind of like a mid-table team almost. Really did struggle and kind of, you know, found it really difficult to get to the latter stages. So, you know, this is a big moment for Vitalize, and I think, you know, this Bacage right now is going to tell all.
Yeah. So map number 1, Pablo, and you mentioned it before. This is going to be a very, very interesting map for Vitalize, just to put a marker down, really, isn't it?
Yeah, and again, this huge like P1, this super contested P1 that's got so many different angles and different ways to see, and we can already see the 17-year-old getting kills. Unfortunate time of there as he does need to reload, but yeah, already 10 points on the board for the good. But this is the Vitalize kind of arena, so hopefully they're going to be able to just reshape and get some picks. Not looking good so far though, Major.
Yeah, so already a couple of kills coming through from those boys, and it's one of those maps, Pablo, where it can get out of hand very, very quickly for some of these teams, can't it? It's definitely so fast-paced at moments where teams can just snowball them away. Vitalize already, we've been accustomed to them having really strong starts, haven't we, at certain times in hard points, and already the good kind of getting a little bit of a lead, but over towards that P2. Journey looking to try and grab one, and already it looks as though they might potentially get a foothold in the back. J-Prof looks to try and make the play. He can't do it, and the good potentially already starting to push out a little bit of a sizable lead here.
Yeah, and they're getting Vitalize are getting kind of vitalized in a way, because we're about to see a team that's potentially going to take 30-40 seconds off each hill. You saw Journey just rack through chicken just to make sure that they got that spawn for P2 after taking, you know, the lion's share of the hill time on P1. And this is it's the creeping death almost in Call of Duty. When you play like this, you always feel like you're in the game, but you're really not. So it's a huge like moment right now for Vitalize. They do really need to just kind of like shake things up, and I think they're going to find it really difficult. Look at this like mid-map control already.
Yeah, so Vitalize now trailing by around 50. So already a bit of a battle for these boys is going to be at hand. And EU Ghost, he's a player that we've seen as well, Pablo, where when he has a good game, Vitalize seem to have a good game, but at the moment they are being outslain just by a little bit. But even though the kills, I mean, I was going to say they're not too heavily one-sided. Journey is currently 11-2. The remaining players of the good are still putting up numbers as Lucky manages to take down one, and it's really looking as though it's the prediction that we kind of foresaw early on. These boys of the good are just stacking up kills. Metals is going to grab another one, and they are just, looks as though they're just roaming around really, as Vitalize are just trying to come at them from almost every single angle, but they're not really having much luck trying to push through, as there's another one for J-Prof. But again, it's another 4-man wipe, and the good are going to be close to pushing the 100-point mark out early on here, with Vitalize really struggling.
And again, you just need to watch the gameplay, the good. There's a lot of support for each player. They have a player that's kind of sat in the hill. They support him with another player. They're already going to be thinking about the next wrap. And again, Vitalize just getting a little bit, they're flapping a little bit. They're starting to kind of feed kills into the hill, which is not what they want to do. This is a big moment for them right now. It's not too far gone. They're only 70 points shy. So this is a huge moment. Vega with a big kill there just to get himself another easy 10 seconds. So he's got that info. He is going to get traded out. But this is a huge moment in the game, Major, for Vitalize to just start to get a grip back into this.
Yeah, and we mentioned where the pacing will land for these guys, because we know how quick Vitalize can play, but it looks as though the good are just meeting them head on with it, and they are making them pay for it. Currently, Zyro is going to manage to grab one as he slowly starts to work his way round. The good still in the hill for the time being. This next hill and this time for them could be absolutely pivotal for them in this map. Metals, another kill comes through for him. Currently 13 and 9. Journey still going strong. Everyone on the side but Zyro. That's a lot better there from him. That's more from what we're used to seeing as he manages to grab a couple of kills. Lucky the shots go through from Vega as he takes down another one. And you're just hoping, really, because we've seen it a couple of times now already from Zyro, from Vega, that if their shots are on point, they can hang with them for stages of it. J-Prof is going to manage to take down another one. And Vitalize, they're still trailing by a sizable amount, but it's going to be an interesting spec to see potentially the next couple of hills.
Vega with 2 massive kills over towards that trench side. He did not deserve to get, well, he deserved to get them, but he should never have been able to get. A huge moment right there. And you just feel like the kills are just starting to go the way of Vitalize. That kind of close Barn Hill was just perfect for them to mix it up, get involved, and just get some easy kills. And you can see already just the KD's just creeping up slowly but surely. But right now, the Goods still got a nearly 100-point lead. They're 20 seconds shy. So again, they just need to be careful, Vitalize, that they're not going to get kind of crept out of the game, and you just see the kill feed just slowly. Real Journey, real. It's just not looking great right now as we do pass that kind of 100-point deficit.
Yeah, so this uphill battle now is getting bigger and bigger now for Vitalize. Ghost currently struggling 8 and 16. Every single player apart from Vega is negative on the side of Vitalize. And you mentioned, Pablo, the kill feed just constantly lighting up red. But it looks as though Vega manages to grab another couple there for him to push himself out on a 3 streak. We saw the glide bomb invested earlier on, but it didn't manage to grab anyone at that occasion. But over towards the P1 we go as it gets messy. And it just looks as though the good are really starting to stamp their authority on this game, Pablo.
Yeah, Lucky with two kills. He managed to shoot J-Prof in the back, and then the comm obviously was there that he was kind of like back on, and he should never have got the kill that he got over towards middle, and it's just really changed that complexion a little bit. But great play by Vitalize to get back into that P1, and again, this is ideal for them. This kind of small hill where they're going to get a lot of SMG action is perfect, and we can see that from Vega, who's having a monumental game. And we pointed out before, we see another team kill though down for the good though. We pointed out earlier on, man, these are hanging fine in terms of gun skill. It's just in terms of, you know, breaking and maintaining that kill time.
Yeah, I think gun skill is it's a weird kind of reference for certain teams, because a lot of players that we see can shoot straight, and it's just the consistency of trading and comms and map awareness. As Zyro manages to get another couple of kills, important ones, albeit at that as well. They are going to invest even more streaks. So Lucky's going to land a glide bomb. I think he's going to run potentially around the corner and grab another kill, but Zyro is going to manage to grab another kill, and Juicy, or Mr. J-Prof, he doesn't really like to be called Juicy, does he? I forgot about that one. But he is going to manage to grab another one. But it's a big sizable amount of time so far for these boys. But yeah, you referenced the gun skill. And there's some of it on display. Metals completely 180s there onto Vega to take him down. And it's a break here for the good. And it's a dangerous stage of the game now for Vitalize to be gifting away time.
Yeah, absolutely, and what a good performance by them to get that first 35 seconds, but they really need to be fighting for every bit of time. And again, we're seeing that kill feed go red, but up to now, just been a really kind of resurgent performance from both J-Prof, Zyro, and obviously Vega's been having a great game. But we said earlier on, Ghost is just that player that's a little slow to get into a series, but once he gets going, I mean, I think you're going to see a different Ghost on Desert Seeds than you're seeing right now. But I think Vitalize are making a good account of themselves. They just, you know, we're seeing that experience come to the fore. We're seeing the support for each other. We're seeing map control from the good that you wouldn't necessarily see from, you know, teams at the kind of like mid to lower AM. So yeah, this is definitely a lesson in how to play Call of Duty.
Yeah, and Real, the man who we don't really know a huge amount, comes flying through the door. There's nothing in pace that he is going to be lacking at this time. Lucky, a quality player that we've seen over the years in terms of the EU scene. And Vega, there's a couple of kills though for Vitalize, so they are trailing by 50, but I don't think Metals has actually moved for about what feels like an eternity. He's just been sat top bar, and whether he's gone for a quick toilet break potentially or something, but it's actually allowed Vitalize to get back in the game a little bit. So the good looks as though they're just playing with 3, and now Metals is going to quickly run back. Maybe he had a Tesco delivery or something ordered, I'm not sure, but Vitalize still trailing by around 50 points, and Journey grabs 3 kills right in quick succession, and they're looking to push this point mark out. And look at the aggression though from the good. Although the hill would only just pop, Metals is still so far pushed up, now on a 5 streak, make it 6 as he cuts through more. Vega, he's going to manage to finally show that he's human and take him down, and he gets a couple as well, but the good are looking to push this one out and get this map 1 done very, very quickly.
Oh, it's been a huge performance. And unfortunately for Vitalize, they were within 50 seconds, but then they just lost the kill completely, and now they're just looking in massive trouble. But and I can't put it past them. You know, they're such a resilient team that we've seen it time and time again, where they've been, you know, sub 200 points when the team have been close to finishing the tie, and they've just managed to turn something around. Now the key is, you know, can they do that, and can they see it out? But right now it's just not looking great. Metals playing so well, but Journey, look at that, 35 and 26 with 1 minute 21 on the kill. Absolutely monumental performance, and you know, this is what he does for a living, so, and he's doing it very, very well this evening.
Yeah, and the scrap time now, every single second is going to count for these boys. The rotation over towards the new hill is going to be a bit of a foot race as Ghost gets caught in between a rock and a hard place. 2 players on the hill though for the side of Vitalize. They do currently have Zyro just currently retreating out. I think it might be Metals. Yep, he's investing the glide bomb, manages to land it right on the noggin of Vega, just trying to retreat in, and number 6 Lucky's actually managed to sneak his way through here, so he might be able to get a couple of kills potentially. Vega doesn't expect him, his teammate drops in tower, and there's another one for Lucky. He manages to cull through both players, and this is looking a bit dangerous now as Lucky manages to grab another kill. On the hill he goes, and this might be curtains for map number 1.
Absolutely, mate. And there's no way that he should get that pick on Ghost as he's coming out to spawn. That comms are obviously just not quick enough or not accurate enough, and that is exactly what you're not going to see from a team like the Good, who are about to wrap up this game in some style. No one negative. What a performance, and 1-0 to the Good, and this really exciting series.
Yeah, 250 to 155. I suppose it's not the most demoralizing of scores, Pablo, in terms of Vitalize's performance there. It looks as though we will see Journey in that kill cam, and obviously Metals was, I think it was AFK for periods of it. But in terms of performance, you'd look at it and go, all right, that's not too bad. But the boys on the Good, just, they look so solid.
Yeah, absolutely. You know, if you are Vitalize and you're going to go back and have a look over that map, you look at Vega's performance was just superb. He's dropping bodies, he's got a really good KD, he's trying to do everything he can to be a thorn in the side. But we said it earlier on, you know, the problem with a team of that caliber is that it kind of, the defeat creeps up on you because you feel like you're in the game. But from the start, they could never get a lead. They couldn't get the foot in the door, and at no point did it really look like Vitalize were gonna hold 2 hills in a row. That was the problem. They were never going to be able to like bring that back close enough beyond like that 1 full hill rotation. So I don't know. I would still take away some good performances, but as we said, you know, this is a team that warms up. They do start slowly, so expect to see maybe a different Vitalize by the time we hit Desert Siege.
Yeah, so map number 2, Pablo, Berlin Search. If you're a betting man, I mean, we mentioned it, Vitalize did drop it before against Mistaken Identity. So are you going, I mean, honestly, I think the Good will probably show some weird angles that nobody has ever seen and probably come out on top of this map, but you never really know. Search and Destroy can potentially be a bit of a coin flip with some of these teams, but you'd expect the Good to at least have a good understanding of what they're doing on this one for sure.
I mean, early in the season, this early, it could be, you know, you could throw this one open to any possibility, but yeah, you would expect a team of the caliber of the Good to, and the caliber of player that they've got to just have been ready to win this tournament, to win this league. They've come in prepared that this is what they do for a living, so I would totally expect them to be ready but it is S&D, and we see level players fall all the time to AM players. So again, it's open. Vitalize are a very crafty side. Vega is super aggressive, and I'm not sure they're going to really come across a player as aggressive as Vega and S&D, but Berlin probably not his map.
Yeah, it's we mentioned it as well, where assault rifle players probably a bit more relieved to see a Berlin and a Desert Siege. So the likes of Ghost and J-Prof can pick up those more not comfortable roles. I'm sure they can do it with either gun, but they'll feel as if they can have more of an influence in these maps where you've got more spacing out and more opportunity to actually make a play with an assault rifle.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I kind of could have sworn, I might have to go back over the cast, but I could have sworn that Ghost run a MP40 for that map. I honest to God, when he went into Lower Grannies, I was like, has he got an MP40 in his hand? So I'm not sure whether they ran a three SMGs in that game, but we would normally expect to see Ghost with an AR, and that's the player that you really want to step up. He was the one that appeared to struggle the most in that Bocage, so I think if we get an AR in his hand and he does get into this Berlin and he's manages to get into the game, this could be a turning point in this series.
Yeah, so map number 2, guys, if you don't know the maps, they are obviously Bocage Hardpoint that we had 250 to 155 to the good. So a dominant performance there from those boys. We've now got Berlin Search. We've then got Desert Siege Hardpoint, Berlin Hardpoint, and Tuscan Search and Destroy. And we spoke about it before, Pablo, as well. If you're giving Vitalize a shot at this one, they've really got to take the Search and Destroy here, you'd feel.
Yeah, 100%. Like if they can't win this Search and Destroy on Berlin, they're definitely not going to win a hard point on Desert Siege. Desert Siege was kind of like a heavily played map when the first game came out, so a lot of pro players did put a little bit of time into it. So I would expect Journey and Lucky and Metals to just know this inside out when we get to that map 3. So yeah, this is a huge map for Vitalize, and 100% they need to win this.
Yeah, so we did, unfortunately, we were in the lobby, but the Call of Duty Vanguard gods blessed us once again with another scan and repair for, I think it was us and the players from what the boys were saying. So unfortunately, we are just going to have to reboot. But Pablo, we saw the new addition to the good. What were your main thoughts on him? I think in terms of pace and ability, it's unsurprisingly, it's not exactly lacking, is it?
Yeah, I just think more than anything else, though, they just seem. You can't hear the comms, but they're clearly enjoying themselves. You've got 3 players going on multiple streaks, getting 4, 5, 6 pieces, not a problem, and just seem to be completely in control of the map. They seem to be, when you flick over to the Vitalized players, the good are dropping out the sky on top of them, getting, turning and getting, kills they should never get. They were in spawn as well. So I think more than anything else, they're kind of like organization, their ability to rotate early and get control just frees up those kind of players that just want to go and dominate a map and drop big numbers to just go and have fun. And I think you just saw, I can't remember which hill it was. It might have been Barn Hill. When Vitalize completely lost control, they were just going in one at a time and getting absolutely destroyed. And I think someone's obviously put the foot down going into the next rotation and just said, stop that now, because it didn't really happen after that, which is nice to see from Vitalize. But yeah, the good just looked like they were having fun, to be honest.
Yeah, I think in times in games, you mentioned those are some key moments where you literally have to say, okay, we're going to sacrifice 20, 30 seconds here and just try and regain. I think when Vitalize come up against teams that they're used to playing, that is a lot more instinctual, whereas when they're playing against top teams and the lead starts to slip away and it starts to go past that 200 point mark, it's just natural habit to hit the button and just say, we need to keep going for the scrap time, because when teams push out a lead, it's just so difficult to sit back and say, right, okay, it's just do or die for us here. We're going to have to sit back, we're going to have to rotate, take the hit, and just bank on us trying to hold the next hill.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think one of the key factors is that with the very, very top players, especially those that have gone and played in the very highest level and been around other players at that level, but particularly coaches at that level, they'll have practice things that they do that no other players, like AM players, will particularly do, especially that kind of like middle AM player. They'll know where you are pretty much at all times on the map. They'll kind of have an idea that there's only 3 players that we're dealing with, so someone's on the flank, which is Vitalize. You didn't really see. Journey went on a couple of flanks, and at no point did they pick him up. He kind of got P2 on that first rotation just by going through chicken and never got picked up, and you just seen them getting shot in the back time and time again.
Yeah, so guys, we are loading into map number 2, and we know all well Pablo Berlin. Your boy's scared, not gonna lie, but it looks as though, without jinxing it, we are all good and we are in. So I will switch us over as we hop into the next map. And I wouldn't say do or die, Pablo, for the Vitalized boys, but it's going to be one where they really need to try and make something of this map, you feel, at this point in time.
Yeah, this is definitely, I mean, you can't say do or die because it's only map 2, but let's be perfectly honest, it is do or die. And Vega there with the classic aggression nearly gets killed and does play his life really well. So, again, just being held back from playing his natural game. And I'm just wondering whether you see it straight out 2-piece for the boys from the good. And this is already looking a little bit worrying if you're a Vitalized esports fan.
Yeah, and Vega does manage to grab a pick, but look at where Journey is. He's gone all the way around the back, and there's a freebie for him, and it looks as though they know where the last man is, so those red arrows surely are going to start converging. Vega, he does manage to take down one, but lucky, we've seen it in previous Call of Duties with that sniper, so it wouldn't surprise me here if we see a couple of clips from this boy, because he is pretty damn talented with it.
Yeah, just look at that. Just a quick scope in a game against Vitalized is just wild. Huge talent, and you just control the map. And again, we said it just before. You know, they're not watching, they're not counting, they're not. No one was checking flank, and Journey comes through and gets a couple of kills and changes the shape of the round.
So round number 2, we will go Vitalized now, trailing by the 1. And we'll stay on board with Lucky here. A lot of players watching the cross. And how's your reaction time? A bullet whizzing past a few of the players. But the all-important information, I suppose, is the part that comes through. Real, the new player on the side of this team. Let's see if he can manage to get something going. And the first blood actually goes in favour of Vega, who manages to grab one mid-map. But Zyro, Real over the top rope, manages to spot him, grabs a kill. So we're now back to 3v3. It looks as though they're going to bank on the bomb over this side, but they've got to be careful because it looks as though Real is here, and your boy Fat Finger, number 6 instead of number 7, as he manages to grab a couple of kills. He drops another one there as well. 3 for the round for him. He's looking for the final player in Ghost. He spots him, but look at the flank of Lucky. It looks as though Ghost, unless he manages something special here, he's going to drop, and that's exactly what happens.
So weird. Like there's this head along dockside between Ghost and Lucky, and they just do not see each other. And I just think, you know, if you're gonna go and watch for the flank, if you're seeing your players getting cut down, it's probably time to transition. And Ghost just a little bit too slow on the transition and gets tagged up by both. You know, he was going to get pinched by either player, but just Lucky all the way around, really patient flank.
So nice work there once again from the good, unsurprisingly. And Vitalized now trailing by 2. So Real currently on a 4 streak. We'll stay on board with him here. See if he can manage to push it out any further. And he's going to go straight through mid here. So he might be able to catch out a couple of players. I think the info has been spotted here by Journey. And the smoke's gone down. And he has just run straight through it as he gets the first blood. J-Prof looks for the trade though. So that's a lot better there from him. They do manage to take down one, and the bomb now in the hands of Mr. J-Prof is going to go down, but number 7, Lucky, ready and waiting. Real's actually going to nade J-Prof and actually kill his own teammate, but another quick round, Pablo, and the good are, they are looking, unsurprisingly, very, very solid now, 3-0 up.
I would just be really fuming if I'd been shot in the back as many times as some of these Vitalized players have, because right now, they are being pushed from all corners. They don't look, they were spinning around, they don't know where they are. This is tragic for the boys from Vitalized. They do need to regain solidly now, and they are just being pulled apart by a very, very talented Spanish team.
Yeah, I think that's one of the things that we tend to see with like these higher quality teams. The pace at which they switch to bomb sites when they get the information. We see Lucky watching that middle map, and as soon as the call out comes through, he just manages to dip away on that one though. 20 HP to his name. So he's a bit lucky on that occasion, but just look at the pace that Good are playing with. They just don't expect it Vitalized. They get locked up in a position, and then all of a sudden there's a red arrow just straight behind them, ready to take them down as Journey manages to grab another one, and it looks as though it's going to look as though it's a pretty bread and butter round once again. And oh god, no idea how Vega hasn't seen Lucky there as he puts a round straight in his backside, and it's all on J-Prof now with the 1v4.
And this is the same position that I think each of the players have been in from Vitalized, where they just end up in no man's land. They're not really playing together. But again, how does a player, know that there's a sniper in the back, is not checking, every possible vantage point and getting sniped like that? It's wild. So the comms are definitely, all over the show, or the heads have completely gone.
I think it's just maybe an expectation of where players might be. I think Vitalized obviously now being in quite a deficit here in map number 2. I don't want to say it's getting a little bit carried away and they've not really got a chance here, but they've got 4 kills between the 4 of them. Obviously, Ghost, Zyro, they're still waiting for their first kills. Vega currently on 3, and you look at the side of the good with Real. I mean, he's on a 9 streak. He can't do any wrong at the moment. He's going to call in the glide bomb as well, so that information should come through, and it's another first blood for the good. And with that glide bomb landing, it won't grab anyone as of yet, but again, it's going to be a quick flank from Journey, and it looks as though they are just not ready again. Once he gets around the back, he grabs the kills, and it's now going to be on Vega and Zyro once again to try and make something work of this round.
Yeah, and exactly what you said. As soon as they got that information, once that glide bomb lands, they are moving on that information that they've got as a team and just picking apart players. Real is 11-1, and we're only in round 4 of what is an 0-4 game. Definitely a great pickup right there, and the good with another win. It's just looking really shambolic on the part of Vitalize right now.
Yeah, I mean, in some ways, there's a level to which you can say, oh, they might not be playing well, but I know we say it time and time again, Pablo, but every time that you see this kind of quality of player, it's chalk and cheese, isn't it, from what we tend to see in terms of positioning, ability, and search and destroy. First bloods as well. Like, you have to give the good credit where it's due. They've been grabbing first bloods left, right, and centre. Obviously, with Lucky watching with the sniper. I think Metals had it in that particular part of the round, and now you see them 5-0 up, and there's another first blood for Metals as he manages to take down another one. Real, he can't manage to snap onto that one, but another kill for Lucky puts him out of 4-0. He's had a pretty much perfect search and destroy with this sniper, and again, it looks as though Vitalize, unless they pull their finger out here, this could potentially be a 6-0. But now it is Journey left in the 1 versus 2. Is going to manage to grab 1, and there's a round for Vitalize, so at least some redemption in this search and destroy to get 1 round on the board for the time being.
Yeah, and maybe, you'd like to say maybe a bit of complacency on the part of the good. They just, they've got 5 rounds to play with, and they're probably, thinking maybe just play a few routes or just try and get there a bit quicker than normal. But Vitalize, it's good that they've got a round on the board, and they should try and, prosper on this. It's just whether they can drop Real. At the minute, he's just all over them, and if they can get control of him and maybe get that first blood, then this could be a different game, but I just can't see it.
Yeah, so although they managed to get first blood there, it was a good bit of play there from Vitalize to at least play numbers where they needed to, and the goods now, they've got plenty of rounds in the pocket to try and make this one. Journey is going to grab first blood. Journey, he does get taken down though by Mr. J Prof in response as one of the streaks comes through. The bomb is down in a pretty awkward position though for the Vitalize lads. They are just going to have to just re-grab it and try and pick a bomb site. And now I suppose it's the question, Pablo, the mind games of, do they stick or do they twist? Because they've got Lucky watching this entire side of the map with the sniper, and the way he's shooting at the moment, you don't really want to be an AR player potentially peeking over this side of the map.
100% do not want to put your head over the parapet, because he's not missed a shot so far. He's just been absolutely awesome with this sniper, and it's really nice to see them back in Call of Duty. But again, this is a huge moment though, 3v3, and it's almost on a reset. So just peeking across to try and destroy the truck there, just to see if they can get some information. So I think they've got an idea that this might be a bomb plant towards B. But a big moment for J-Prof though, is he is the outline player, so this could be a very juicy, very quick.
Yeah, and Lucky just plays that so smart. He's in a position where he can hear the man planting. He manages to grab the kill. J-Prof will manage to reply with 1, but Real and Lucky, they manage to finalize it with, I believe, a nade and an explosion from one of the barrels. But 6-1 to the good Pablo, and they ran away with that one.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, we didn't want to be harsh at the start of the game and say this is probably going to be a 3-0, but when you're dealing with this caliber of player who've been in so many high pressure situations, like the highest pressure situations, I just can't see any other outcome at the minute. And right now, the Vega and Zyro and Co are just getting a little lesson in what it's like to play the very high end Call of Duty.
Yeah, it was a pretty dominant one there from the good. So guys, if you did miss map 1 and map 2, it was 250 to 155 to the good. They now lead the series 2-0, and they've just taken 6-1 on that Berlin search. So we're actually going to go to something slightly different, Pablo. Desert Siege. I mean, it's not a map that we've seen Vitalize play, but the way it's going at the moment, are you in the camp of 3-0 is the question that I'll ask you.
I'd be surprised if it wasn't. I mean, as far as I could tell, a lot of the higher level AMs and pros did put a bit of time into Desert Siege at the start of the game, so they should know this intimately. I'm not saying the Vitalize don't, but one thing, the one X factor that we probably could give Vitalize is that, you know, Ghost is usually warmed up by now. Unfortunately, I don't know how warm he'll have got from a 6-1 S&D, so he's usually a lot more involved at this point. But yeah, this is normally the point where you would expect to see Ghost step up, but I just think this is definitely a step too far for the boys from Vitalize.
Yeah, and we brought it up, but in terms of just an experience for these boys to see how the lads on the good are playing, you mentioned VODs before, it's not an opportunity that comes very often for these kind of players on the boys of Vitalize, so I'm sure regardless of the result they're going to be pretty happy just to come up against these players. So it's very, very good to see kind of these opportunities for players, should I say, where they can come up against players in the ES hub, where normally in generic kind of competitions they wouldn't really get a look in against this kind of caliber of player and caliber of team.
Yeah, exactly, and this is a great you've summed it up perfectly. It's a great opportunity for a lot of, you know, if you're a mid-tier AM team and you can afford to spend some money on entering these cups, enter them and get a chance to play these players and just see, you know, what you need to do and how far you need to go to be able to get up to this level, because this is exactly what it's about. And, you know, all the cries about latency and whatever, you don't hear these players cry about it when they're playing against each other from different countries. They just get on with the game, and that's how it is. But yeah, this is definitely a learning curve for Vitalize right now. And but again, Desert Siege does present an opportunity here, but already getting shot in the back, and Journey already causing problems. Oh my days, the accuracy absolutely takes his head off, and Journey and Real just teaming up again to just mischievous. Journey already 7-1 on a 4 streak.
Yeah, I was about to call out the fact that Vitalize had rotated efficiently. They sent 3 players all the way around for this P2, and then the good just came through. You brought up Journey, he just absolutely ran through them with multiple shots, and the slaying, you can see Journey is currently carrying the boys in his backpack, just letting him do the free roam run. Only 1 second on the hill, but they are now on it, Vitalize. However, EU Ghost is going to be the last man standing, though. Real manages to catch out Vega with a nade, so Vitalize, they're going to have to try and work something here on the hill, potentially not, as Metals now gets on it, and they've got to be careful now, because we saw it in the first half point, Paolo, didn't we, where the good, they got a cushion, and then it just became more and more difficult as Real almost managed to make a highlight reel, no pun intended, as he almost managed to string together 4, not quite able to. But yeah, the further this goes out and the early advantage that the good managed to get, you definitely feel that Vitalize are just going to be kind of clawing their way back into a game where they're going to be second to rotations. They're going to be kind of clambering onto every second of scrap time, and it's just going to be so difficult for them.
Yeah, absolutely. And the other key factor in this particular map is obviously streaks, and you already know that some of these players are streaked out. Metals have just gone 6. So, you know, an open map like this, where not necessarily the kills are open, but the transitions between them are, it's going to play into the hands of the good, and they know this. And again, this is very similar to the game we watched the other day with Mistaken Identity, where you felt like there was, you know, 2 more gears to go through. Well, I actually feel like, you know, Journey and Metals could probably play a little bit more composed, and right now they're just quite reckless and just enjoying the game. I feel like there's like 2 or 3 more levels within those players, you know, if they were to come up against slightly better opposition. But right now, I mean, it is only, you know, 30 points right separating the teams, and we have got Vega again performing really well on this hard point. So, you know, Ghost needs to step up, J-Prof needs to step up, and I don't know, these boys are just frying at the minute. 14-3 for Metals, and Journey as well, back on a 2 streak, although he does get dropped.
Yeah, it's looking like sheer dominance from the good in terms of slaying at the moment. There's another couple of kills for Metal as he pushes his streak out to 5, so they've got plenty of streaks to use as and when they decide to have the boys of the good. And that lead is now being pushed out with Lucky just chilling on 3 and 7, really, keeping his head down, soaking up the objective time, and he's just letting his boys loose at the moment outside the hill. Another couple of kills coming through there for Zyro, but it's just one of those, Pablo, where if the slow start becomes out of hand, it's just going to be not demoralizing, but difficult to a point. And every single kill that comes through now for Metals, as he's 20-4, the man is just not missing a beat at the moment. They're soaking up the time. He's pushed the points out past 120 for his boys, and it's just looking like Vitalize, they just haven't really got up to speed with this later set of hills here, because or what was, I believe, were they on 38 points 2 hills ago, and now it's still 38, but the good are on 128 themselves.
Yeah, absolutely, and you know that's an awkward hill as well. It's so difficult to break, and they just got themselves a little bit kind of like obstinate. They were just pushing from the front constantly, and never saw anyone try and flank. So a kind of a little bit of imagination just kind of fallen by the wayside for the boys from Vitalize. I do think they're kind of being bombarded both physically and mentally. So this has been a really difficult kind of map for the boys, but they have got a little opportunity right now just to get that challenge in and get a few more points on the board. But as you said, what 10 points in the last minute is a demoralizing amount, and again, you know, the good are just frying and playing so well. But Metals hasn't added a kill in the last maybe 15 seconds, so we may see a little bit of a resurgence from the boys in blue.
Yeah, it's potentially feasible for Vitalize here if they can just get the slaying into action here. You mentioned Vega, he's currently even with Journey. I mean, it's just take your pick at the moment between these boys. They just grab 3 pieces between them and just swap and change. Just like, all right, do one of you boys want to get 3 pieces, one of you, and they just switch it up every single time. It's like there's not a weak spot on this team by the looks of it at the moment. Lucky, Metals, and Journey all combining, and you've still got the boys of Vitalize trying to leg their way over towards the hill. The streaks now, I mean, we still haven't seen them, but Journey's on it again. They're on a combined 9 now between the 3 of them. Lucky will drop, though, to stop that. But now, here come through the streaks, raining death from above. So Metals will manage to grab the 1, at least out of the hill. They do manage to drop the man on the hill, which I believe was I think it was maybe Real on the hill for that occasion. But they've got Lucky back on it now. It feels like there's just no end to the bombardment from the good at the moment.
Honestly, Lucky's 5 and 11 with 154 on the kill. I think he's getting on the kill and then going back on Twitter. And then when it's time to rotate, he goes back on the kill and then goes back on Twitter, because he's literally just sat in these hills, soaking up time and not really getting any engagements, and just letting these 3 players absolutely dominate the map. I mean, if you're Vega, you're having one of the better games that you've had in a while against the top side, but you just cannot turn that into points. And it's just been really unfortunate that Vitalize have come up against such a strong side in this league at such an early stage. But what a performance right now we're seeing from the Spanish lads, who just appear to be having a lot of fun.
Yeah, the pace at which they're playing and the efficiency of their trades is just a completely different ballgame for these guys. Metals 26 and 11. Journey 26 and 14. They are just running riot at the moment. Vitalize are in a dangerous spot here to potentially get 100-point club. So hopefully, fingers crossed for them, they can at least save themselves the blushes here. Real is actually going to help them with that as he manages to take out one of his own boys. But the good now, only 50 points away from taking this map number 3 and sealing the series 3-0, which at the beginning of it, I suppose you would say, isn't necessarily a surprise, Pablo. The first hard point we flagged up as one where Vitalize, that's going to probably be the map where they're going to look to try and pinch it, because when you look at the performance on this hard point, it's completely different. They're really struggling to get going in this one.
Yeah, and obviously Bocage is definitely familiar ground for them, so they did look a little bit more composed. But again, this is a problematic map. It's multi-level. The hills are multi-level. It's got an enormous amount of entry and egress points right across the map. You can be picked off from, you know, multiple windows and doorways. So this is a really complex map for a team that maybe struggling against what is ostensibly a pro level side. So yeah, this, you know, it looks like a complete slap, and it is, and it is worrying if you're Vitalized that you may have to come up against this caliber of team again. But yeah, we expected it from the start, and I think, Major, honestly, we wanted Vitalized to kind of do better because we know them. You know, we've watched them grow. But what a performance from the good there. An absolute dominant performance, mate.
Yeah, the good. Those boys are good. 3-0 for them. It's a very, very dominant performance. We saw the early exit there from the Vitalized boys. They don't want any more to do with that. So, although it was a convincing performance, we mentioned there are still positives that Vitalized can take away from it, but it just cements the opinion that we had before the game, Pablo, of we thought there was a ceiling, and then we see this caliber of player, and that ceiling has instantly just been raised.
Yeah, absolutely. You saw the pace. You saw, I mean, to all intents and purposes, Desert Siege looked like a pub. It just looked like it could have been watching a pub. Every time you move onto a Spanish player, they're round someone's back, getting 2 pieces and 3 pieces. At no point in that game, I don't think there was a point at all where the good had a player that wasn't on a streak of some kind. It was a dominant performance from start to finish. In fact, the back-to-back S&D and Hardpoint were just horrible if you're a Vitalize esports fan. But at the same time, go back and watch the VOD and just look up, you know, aside from some quite disturbing accuracy on the part of Metals and Real, at times, like really disturbing accuracy, they just play so well as a unit.
Yeah,
And, you know, look at Journey scoring a Hardpoint. Was it Lucky? Sorry, Lucky score 5 and 11.
Yeah, he was
with
just sat
2
on the
minutes.
hill, just chilling. Yeah, he just had his feet up the whole game. I mean, yeah, it is mind blowing when you see it, and it's only when you see these games where we cast teams that we're used to casting against these pro level teams, and that's where even just as neutrals, you've just got to sit back and respect the quality that they've got. Because to be honest, it wouldn't surprise me if those boys on the good are just chilling in a Discord, having a laugh, calling out from time to time, because the pace at which they understand comms, reaction time, rotations, it's just a completely different ball game.
Yeah, I mean, you've got to think that, you know, to all intents and purposes, a few of those players played on a Team Heretic side that was playing, you know, Scumpy, Abizi, you know, these kinds of players that play at a level we can't comprehend, and they won 5-0. You know, I know Suki was on the side at the time, but they put up, you know, big numbers and got really big scalps. Metals played for Toronto last 2019 and it's got a win over FaZe, you know, a really good FaZe side. You know, Journey, I think, got picked up by FaZe. I think it was Journey got picked up by FaZe for a little bit, along with Gravity. So you're talking about players that have played at a level that, you know, when they come across these kind of like trying to break into that top AM scene, yeah, they're chilling. They are chilling.
Yeah.
But it's a great opportunity. Like, you know, if you're Vega and Zyro and that, don't come away too disheartened. You've just played absolute, you know, Spanish legends. Let's face it. You know, in terms of the Call of Duty scene in Spain, you know, that the Spanish fans will be as excited to watch them as anyone.
Yeah, that is a quality team on display there. All 4 players just putting on an absolute show, and without the likes of ES Hub and these kind of leagues, these kind of opportunities wouldn't be possible for these kind of players. So a big shout out to ES Hub for having us on once again, and we'll have a quick glance at the table, Pablo. So that's obviously going to push the good up to 2-0. Vitalize, that's going to be their first loss, but it's a table where by no means, obviously Cryptic currently topping it. They have they beat Cryptic, didn't they, Vitalize, when they played them? So it's not exactly a group that's curtains for them at this stage.
Absolutely not. So much opportunity there for Vitalize. If anything, we haven't had the opportunity to see the other rosters, but you've got to think the Vitalize have gotten a really good opportunity to do really well and potentially, you know, finish in the top 3 or 4 teams. So definitely an opportunity for them. They've probably faced the toughest opposition in the league.
Yeah.
So I think that's out the way. That's a great moment for them. They can just plow on now. Go back and look over the VOD, and I'm not sure how much they're going to learn from the Desert Siege, but there's a lot to learn from that S&D, and obviously that Bocage, which they're so familiar with, they can maybe learn quite a lot from that and get quite good at it. But yeah, really made up for them to get that kind of experience early doors, and hopefully Vega and J-Prof from Ghost especially can move on and get better.
Yeah, and it's still early on in the season, Pablo. I mean, I know we've casted quite a few series already, but what's it been, 2.5, 3 weeks since COD was released? So there's still a huge amount of time for these lads
in,
to.
mate.
Are we a month in?
Yesterday, bro.
Bloody hell, it's
Month
gone quicker than I
yesterday.
thought it was. So, yeah, and it's one of those where, although it's potentially a bit of a battering, it's one of those that they can just take with a pinch of salt. Look to take something from it. I think that's the difference between the teams that are good and the teams that go on to improve. Is even though they've been battered and they might lose a bit of form when they watch it back at certain plays or just even during the game, they can still look at it, analyze even just small parts of it and be like, oh, okay, that's a good idea, why don't we try that out, and just take something from the game. Because every single experience with a loss, you can always take something from it, and when you come up against these kind of teams, you really need to be milking every single drop out of the experience for these boys at this stage.
I read an interview with Standy the other day, and it was basically he just said that it felt like it took him forever to get into the pro level because he was so keen to do it. And someone said like, what did it take? And he said every time I played, I rewatched the VOD. It didn't matter if I smoked a team or I got beat. I rewatched the VOD and saw where I did badly and tried to improve. You know, I saw where I was getting dropped all the time or where I was dropping players and just tried to improve every day, just that 1% improvement. And then, you know, 2 years later, the lads are pro. It's the same for teams. You know, just, you know, if you're taking it seriously and you want to get into that higher AM level, you need to go back and watch your VOD and actually, you know, analyze it, see where you can make 1% improvement every day. And then, you know, within 2 or 3 months, that's a 15-20% improvement. And suddenly you're not getting beat on Bocage by anyone. Suddenly you're a force to be reckoned with in S&D. So definitely need to take stock from that and not let it just be a defeat.
Yeah, and without that third game mode as well, I suppose you could argue that teams now have they can decrease the scope at which they're focusing on. They don't have to focus on 3 game modes, they can just focus on 2. So in terms of scrims, in terms of getting reps in, it's narrowed down the amount that they have to do. So why not take the opportunity now to try and put as much time and as much energy into these hard point maps, these searches, and just get the reps in and try to improve. So it's one of those for Vitalize where, although it will sting, I'm sure those boys won't blink too hard at that one, because it wouldn't surprise me if we cast them again, they come out and then just 3-0 a team. So it's one of those where you just got to take it, roll with the punches, and just come back stronger next time, which I have no doubt these boys will do. And if we manage to get the opportunity to cast the good again further down the tournament, it wouldn't surprise me if we see them go a long way in this one.
Yeah, absolutely. I think up to now, this is probably the top side that we've cast so far. Yeah. They've definitely got the most stacked roster. It'd be interesting to see how they play against Whalers. We don't know any of the other rosters, so we might well have other teams in here that have got, you know, maybe a top French side or something in there. So definitely be interesting to see how that plays out. But yeah, it's been an absolute blast casting this ES Hub side. One thing I would say is though, we did see kind of like a Blag announcement earlier saying that it potentially could be Control again that we're going to be hit with going into that next alternate game mode. So if that's the case, I mean, at least it's got consistency year on year. So teams should be able to, you know, transition flawlessly into that third game mode. But you are quite right in what you said. This is a great opportunity to nail down those hardpoint and S&D strats.
Yeah, and perfect way to round it out, Mr. Pabs, because that will be our one and only game for the evening. So a big shout out to the ES Hub for having us on once again. You say these kind of opportunities are great in terms of just watching these quality of players on the screen and having the opportunity to cast over the top of them. So a big shout out to ES Hub for having us on for this one, and a big thank you to everyone who has tuned in. Apologies for the slight mix-up for game time at the start, but we managed to get through it in the end, and the good are going to come out the better of these two in 3-0 fashion. And a big thank you as well to my comrade, Mr. Pablo, for joining me on the microphone once again, brother. It's a pleasure as always.
Not a problem, mate, and hopefully we'll just you know, get better and keep getting these top tier casts, and I'm looking forward to all the leagues and tournaments that we've got coming ahead. And thank you again for having me on, man. It's been a blast, and as ever, it's always lovely to kind of spend time with the EU's best, man. Yeah. So I'm sure the Take My Vamos will be flowing in the Goods Discord. But yeah, guys, that will be it from us this evening. A big thank you to everyone who has tuned in, as mentioned, to ES Hub as well, once again, for having us on. But we should be back potentially another day this week. We'll have to see how the schedule of games pans out and when teams organise them. But fingers crossed we can bring you guys another good game with some quality players on display once again. But as mentioned, that will be it from us this evening. So a big thank you guys for tuning in, and we will see you shortly in the near future. So thanks again, guys. We'll see you then.